Hello, I'm Nikolai Beam, a student at Midland College, and I'm here to explain Toulmin argumentation. So we have a few different parts of Toulmin. There are some key components of arguments. These are the basics. We have our claim, our data, our warrant, our backing, our rebuttal, and the qualifiers. And we'll go through these a few times. Some of these you can use more than once. Really everything but the claim you can do more than once. If you want to address multiple rebuttals, you can, but it's not really typical. First of all, we've got the claim. The purpose of this is that it constructs the main point of the argument and establishes the issue and whatever your position is. So here we have a bit of a silly example. We've got eating people is harmful to society. And to explain this specifically in terms of the purpose, we have the mention of cannibalism, which establishes the issue of debate. So we're clearly going to be talking about eating people and its harm to society. And then we're claiming that it is harmful, which makes our position on it clear. Next up, we have our data. And here we have a little fictional study that we've cited. But anyway, we say that studies have shown that being consumed by another being has been linked to a decreased work performance, life satisfaction, and responsiveness to the environment for the consumed. Then we have our little APA citation with the year. And the purpose of this is just to justify that your argument with regard to the claim isn't crazy, with some solid evidence. You want to have some support behind it. Otherwise, people can't really defend it, To explain this specific example, we have our fictional study, but then we also have the reasoning that it provides to how it may harm society because it harms the individual participants in the activity, in this case, cannibalism. All right, here we have the warrant. The purpose of this is to connect the data to the claim and explain why it is relevant to your point, because you can bring up any data you want, but if you can't connect it to your argument, it's useless. Our warrant here, specifically, is that decreased performance, satisfaction, and responsiveness to stimuli impede the individual's usefulness to society, which is a way of causing harm, or it can be interpreted as such. And that is all connected to our previous data, which is stating that being consumed by another being decreases all of these. And here we're saying that that harms society. So we're connecting it all the way back to the original claim that eating people is harmful to society. So, as I said, we connected the data in the main claim. We used our fictional study here. I'd also like to add that with the data and the warrant, you can do as many of these as you want, as long as it doesn't clutter up your work. It's not a thing where you can only do one or two. You just want to be able to support everything adequately without making your message inefficient. All right, next we have the backing. The purpose of this is if our warrant was a little vague. Mine was somewhat disconnected because I wanted to be able to show off what the backing did. Here we say that it further connects the warrant and the data to the claim if more specification is needed. So we're a little vague here. We said that this harms society, but then here we kind of go over that again. We see that since being eaten decreases performance, satisfaction, and responsiveness to stimuli, the individual's usefulness to society is hindered. Therefore, cannibalism harms society. So what we did here was we connected this initial data to the next piece in our Will Toulmin argument. And this was our warrant, and we connected that back to the claim. So this is sort of a blend of everything else. So we had our data, we had what our data means, and we have a further connection in case it was unclear. So, our explanation here, I've explained it already, but it makes the connection of the warrant to the claim more evident if some is still needed. So it's really just a way to make it a little bit less clunky if you can. Next piece here, we have the rebuttal. Our example here, cannibalism can be beneficial to society in extreme survival situations. This is commonly brought up, say somebody's in a group and they're starving in the mountains after a failed ski trip, something like that. Maybe one of them thinks that this is a good idea. So it can be viable, and that's what this rebuttal is claiming. So maybe it isn't bad for society, is what the opposition would say. And the purpose here is to name a common opposition to the claim of the argument before you neutralize or disprove it. Otherwise, that'll be left wide open, and somebody can pick apart your argument using these rebuttals. To combat the rebuttal, we have the qualifier. So our example here, except in extremely rare survival cases, are the keywords. Then we say cannibalism harms more people than it helps when compared to alternatives. So this is connecting it back to our claim, but then it's also adding a specific modifier that lets us say that this rebuttal is valid, but not in the situation that we're talking about, and only in very specific rare cases. So we effectively discredit that, and that was our purpose, was to disprove the rebuttal or address it in situations in which rebuttal is correct, and emphasize that it isn't exactly this one. So since we're talking about it more as a whole, we were able to shift this over to extremely rare cases instead of making it the focus of the argument, while still conceding that they can be right sometimes. So yeah, our explanation here, we allowed for an extreme situation, so it weakened the rebuttal, because now it's going to be much harder to defend. So just to go over this again, we've got our different parts of the Toulmin argument, our key components. We have a claim, which is your main point, data, which is evidence, warrant is you justify your main point with evidence, and then the backing, you bring it back. You just tie all these together in a better way. The backing's not necessary. It's more of a specific case that you would use if your warrant isn't as clearly connected as you might want it to be. Our rebuttals, those were just oppositions to the argument that we want to cover in our argument so that we can actually talk about them without having to go back and forth over something, which would be rather difficult in some cases. And then we have our qualifier, which just weakens the rebuttal. And weakening the rebuttal can help us persuade whoever's reading our work or absorbing it in some way to be shifted over from the other possible point of view. Well, thank you for watching, and have a great day. Bye for now.